there are definitely handbags in which I'm like, you guys, like there's just something missing. And I'll get feedback from people, whether they like something, don't like something, like, oh, you should add this, you shouldn't do this. And like we sometimes are actually making handbags together and people become a part of that process and they're so invested in it. And that is like our greatest marketing strategy.
Only 3 years after launching her luxury handbag line, Anima Iris, today's guest, Wilglory Tanjong, has not only gotten her purse worn by the likes of Beyonce, but she's generated over $1 million in revenue. In this episode, Wilglory is taking us behind the scenes into how she's been able to build such a successful company, from how she sources her Italian leathers to how she's been able to gather a group of artisans in Senegal to handcraft her purses and everything in between. Believe it or not, in just 3 years, her purses are now available at Nordstrom's, Bloomingdales, and Sachs Fifth Avenue, and she is sharing how she was able to make that happen in such a short amount of time. So if you're interested in learning about the luxury handbag business, this is going to be a great episode for you. If you're new here, hi, my name is Sewa Ajay Pele, and I host the She's Off Script podcast where we help you create your own unique blueprint for business success. Before we dive into the episode, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. And if you find the episode helpful, share it with someone who could use the inspiration. With that, let's dive straight in. Wilglory Tanjong, welcome to She's Off Script. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So for anyone who hasn't come across you and your fabulous bags, could you share who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Wilglory Tanjong. I am a designer. I create luxury handbags coming out of Africa. So I work with incredible artisans in Senegal, West Africa, using leathers that we custom create in Italy to build just really beautiful, high quality, fun, colorful handbags. I think what makes the Anima Iris so special is that our bags are vibrant and fun and have all these like different patterns that just really stand out. I think handbags should be fun. So that's that's really like I think why a lot of people love our bags.
So why handbags? What made you get into those?
Yeah, the larger vision for Anima Iris really is for it to be a full luxury lifestyle brand. So
Okay.
I'm starting with handbags, but I have interest in expanding into clothing and jewelry and shoes and even home decor. I love home decor. So it's the handbags are just the entry point, but from there we'll definitely expand into other categories.
Okay. But why did you decide to position your brand as a luxury brand as opposed to, the everyday accessible brand?
So for me, when something is made in Africa, people
Mm.
oftentimes do not see it as luxury and therefore do not value it as much, right? And then when
Mm.
initially when I started creating these handbags, I saw how much time, attention to detail,
Mm.
how intricate it was to make these bags, and they are truly made like by hand. The only time we use machines is to sew it, but even that requires so much precision and talent and skill by the artisan. And for me, I've always understood luxury to be things that take time to make, things that are made with intention, things that are made with quality. And it just made sense that this is a luxury product and it's not coming out of Europe, but that doesn't make it any lesser than.
Mm.
Historically, historically the things that historically African fashion is inherently luxurious, right? So if I believe that luxury fashion are things that are made with intention, things that take time to make, things that are like high quality, African fashion is inherently luxurious because many parts of Africa have not gone through that like industrialization phase
Mm.
whereby now everything is made by machine. So a lot of things on the continent are still made by hand. I think that exposing that culture to the world is really important to me, and it's part of our mission.
I absolutely love that. And then historically, Africa is mined for raw materials as opposed to the finished materials,
Exactly.
right? So the
Yeah,
fact that yours is a finished product coming out of the continent also says a lot.
absolutely.
Now, you mentioned that your bags are, worked on by Senegalese artisans. How did you find them and how do you manage your operations there? Are you traveling back and forth a lot?
I travel back and forth a lot. I do. It's very necessary. I'm
Mm,
actually very lucky because, from my understanding, other designers who do have like their own production, manufacturing on the African continent aren't able to leave their facility for long before things kind of start going up in flames.
mm,
But my artisans, I think one of that's the facility truly is like one of the things I am most proud of, and the way in which I've trained my artisans to be diligent, to be respectful of the job that they do, and also the way in which I honor them and respect them as well, and I get that respect back. So even though I travel there a lot, I go only for a couple of days.
mm,
Um, Regarding how I found my artisans, so in Senegal, there is a community of artisans that just kind of like make all different kinds of things. The hard thing is not finding artisans to work with. What's difficult is finding good artisans to
mm,
work with, people who
mm.
are trustworthy, people who say that they can do something and they can actually do it.
And people who
And
take pride in
people,
their work because you also don't, you want
yes.
quality every single
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. And so the very first artisan I worked with is not part of my team to today.
Mm,
I started working with him and I was just like, man, I really think that we could get even better handbags. And I stopped working with him and I was recommended to another artisan who is on my current team now. So they're part of the what I call the core four. So when I first started, so the second artist I started working with, he then recommended me to another artisan who then recommended me to another artisan. And honestly, good artisans know other good artisans. All of these
mm-hmm,
artisans like know each other or know of each other,
mm,
especially because being an artisan is actually something that's like passed down from family to family. So you'll find that their fathers and their fathers' fathers were also artisans as well.
mm.
And so they very much so know of each other. And yeah, so once I had my core four, that was like the base and the blueprint, and there were the four people I initially moved into our own Anima Iris production facility with out of their ateliers into our own production facility in Dakar, Senegal.
So you have a whole production facility. Wow. Now, I did read that you took $5,000 out of your savings in order to then launch your Anima Iris brand. So I'm curious, how did you allocate that $5,000?
Yeah, the $5,000 was really used towards like raw materials,
Mm,
um, and then raw materials like the leathers and everything you need to make the bag, paying the artisan to make the bag, and then also travel out of Senegal.
mm,
And then also working with a designer to create our initial logo and branding.
mm-hmm.
So,
Which is beautiful, by the way.
thank you so much. Yeah, there's this incredible designer, Alyssa. She has this design company, ATNN, and she and I really sat together and thought through what kind of company and brand are you trying to make? How do
Mm,
you want people to feel when you wear the product? How do you want people to feel when they even just see the Instagram feed, right? And so that was incredibly helpful. So that's what the first 5,000 went towards.
okay. I also saw that your first kind of shipment was 50 handbags. How did you get them from Senegal to the US? And what do your logistics look now for that process now that you've grown as a company? I mean, was it like you're in your suitcase and like how did it work?
This question is so funny because it was in my suitcase. I've never really been asked this question. Yeah, I was in my suitcase. I mean, I was going back to Senegal
Mm,
and I put it in my suitcase. Yeah, and but today, nowadays, our Shipment of materials, finished goods is mostly through DHL. So
Mm,
we fly everything into America, because, the bags take a long time to make. And from production, to completion to shipping them out, even shipping it by sea really would just take too long. So part of what
especially during the pandemic when there were logistics issues. Yep.
yeah. So part of what actually, makes the bags more expensive is because they're all being flown by air so that they can get to customers a lot faster.
Mm. It's quite interesting that you made the distinction earlier about having your bags created in Italy versus, made by artisans in Senegal. What's that distinction about? What are you doing in Italy versus in Senegal?
Yeah, so we have always used Italian leathers. Leathers from Italy are just quite simply the best in the
Mm,
world. And the leathers that we were using were leathers that I was sourcing in Senegal, right?
mm-hmm,
So they were kind of like, but they were like smaller quantities. So I was buying it from these leather shops
mm.
that sell leathers that did originate from Italy and made their way to Senegal. So once I started having much larger orders,
Mm,
started working with Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdales, and Nordstrom, and they really required a higher quantity of one, SKU, or basically like handbag leather and shape. I
mm,
was like, I need more leathers. I need to be able to make 30, 50, 100 bags with
mm.
one type of leather, and that simply was not possible in Senegal
Yeah.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I started sourcing directly from Italy, which also gave us the opportunity to custom create a lot of our leathers. And the
Oh.
manufacturers that we work with in Italy are just absolutely incredible. I have just the best relationship with them. I mean, I go to Italy, I try to go twice a year. I recently went a couple of weeks ago, and even just going to their um production facility where they're located, it's, I literally hugs all around. Like, they are
Wow.
incredible. They follow the brand online. They, like, love seeing this product that they made, this leather, and these like beautiful handbags as the finished result. So we are working really with people who are just so invested in the product and really do care about giving us high quality raw goods.
How did you find the manufacturer or the leather source in Italy?
I was connected to a buying agent.
Mm,
So when you're looking to work in these different countries, you typically have to go through a buyer
mm,
who has these established relationships with a lot of these different, types of companies. And
mm,
I was connected to the buying agent that we work with now through my friend Kendall Reynolds, who has her company Kendall Miles.
mm.
So she connected me to her buying agent after I was invited by her to go on a trip to Italy, where she, we went to all the different places where she buys leathers, and we, went to the facility where she makes her shoes, and it was just like an incredible experience.
How amazing of her to let you in behind the scenes. How did you get connected to Kendall?
I was connected to Kendall through a mutual friend at Wharton. So
Ah,
when I was in business school, my friend was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to meet my friend. She's also a designer." And yeah, just, something about Kendall. She is literally the best. She doesn't gatekeep, and she, really just, she's not one of those. She does not have a scarcity mindset,
mm,
that I think a lot of people can often get trapped into, especially as when we're working maybe in a like to serve, when we're all trying to like serve the same like customer.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think Kendall and we both believe like everyone can win. And
Yeah.
so she's, yeah, I love that about her.
And I like that you said you met her through connections from Wharton, because I went to Cornell, you went to Wharton. MBAs, I feel like people are on different sides of the spectrum when it comes to do you need an MBA. But I will say one of the great byproducts of an MBA is the network that you build. You never know who's connected to who, and really easily is going to say, absolutely, here you go. Here's the key to what you need to do. So that's amazing that you were able to leverage that degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when I think about the way you are on social media and how transparent you are, I think it's amazing. In fact, recently I saw you had, or I was scrolling and I saw that you had sketches on graph paper of a purse design. So I'm curious, do you still design your purses in that way, or have you graduated to like CAD blueprints or something?
I design my purses two ways.
Okay.
I think my design process is so interesting because I am not like a trained designer in a traditional sense. I
Mm.
didn't go to design school or anything like that. And truthfully, I can't really draw.
Your drawing looked pretty legit, so I'll
Um,
give yourself that.
But I think for me, I have an incredibly strong, like I have an ability to really envision.
Mm,
My vision is like incredibly strong. So what I'm seeing in my head is like very, very detailed.
mm,
And what I do sometimes is if I have like a design idea, I'll like draw it real quick. But when it comes to actually building and making handbags, I always do it in Senegal. I have to go there myself. I do it in Senegal alongside my artisans, and we make prototype after prototype after prototype until we get it right. So
wow.
my design process is mostly through in-person creation.
Mm. Mm. So speaking about your artisans in Senegal, when I've spoken to founders who've, gone to China, for example, to manufacture their products, they often complain that their designers or their designs start to be sold off and get reproduced elsewhere. So being in Senegal, are you concerned about that? Has that happened? And if there, which I think you said there are copycats out there, how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, fake Anima Iris designs are not coming out of the Anima Iris facility, and they are not coming from the artisans that work for Anima Iris. That is
Good,
number one.
good.
I know that for a fact. So the issue that perhaps other designers are facing in China, that is not something that we are facing. However, most definitely our designs are being replicated by other designers slash companies in Senegal.
Mm,
It's definitely, disappointing to see. I think for me, especially because so much goes into creating our handbags, and
mm,
they're literally such original designs that, I take great pride in having made that
yeah.
and brought it and bringing it to life. And so to see, what I think are attempted replications, because no one has ever fully, properly
Nope. The
replicated
original can't
any
be
of our
replicated.
bags.
Nope.
Yeah, they replicated enough that you can tell what they were trying to do, but they've
Shade
never
intended.
fully gotten there. Yeah, and when it comes to, even replications, listen, the quality also is more than just the design, it's how we actually make the bags.
Mm,
So in bringing all of these artisans together, I think something that people don't know is that artisans typically are not used to like working in groups. They usually work
mm,
like solo, right? And they usually have like all these other clients. So what I'm doing in Senegal is extraordinarily unique because having so many artisans that for years, right, these people have like 10 years plus experience, have been working solo as like their own individual business owners. Now
mm,
joining Anima Iris is like literally almost unheard of. And even, and convincing them to join Anima Iris was like a year-long process in building that trust and building that relationship with them. But what that did do, and I think that very quickly when we all started working together, like as a unit, as a team, they saw that we were a lot more efficient in producing handbags, and we were able to bring together all the years of experience that all of these artisans had
Mm-hmm.
to make very high quality bags. So even today, when we have when I'm trying to like make a bag and there's an issue with it, we'll call the whole team and, have them think, okay, here's what I think you should do. Here's what I think you should do. So we're really merging all of, their talents and the skill sets
Mm-hmm.
that they've built all these years to really make the high quality bags. And so the issue with other, people working in Senegal making bags is that they're only leveraging the skill set of perhaps one or two artisans, but I'm leveraging the skill sets of like, 6 to 8. And that
Mm-hmm.
is how we have really made handbags that can really stand the test of time, and are so structured and are very high quality.
The fact that you said these families have been doing it for generations and you brought them together and they're cross pollinating, it just reminds me of like the French wineries. They've been doing it for generations. Everyone has their unique recipe and they're
Mm-hmm.
not merging. You have made that happen. And that in itself is amazingly unique.
I
So
mean,
they can
that's
try.
thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's true. And I remember there was a point where I was working with all of them individually,
Mm.
and I was requesting, a certain number of bags from each one. And then I was like, listen, you guys, like we could really be so much more efficient
Mm.
if we work together. And there was initial hesitation, but then they were willing to do it because they had seen how quickly the company was growing. They, had really built trust with me. That trust is so important. And I remember I'll never forget the day we gathered in one of the artisans' ateliers and we had the Zaza handbag that the artisan had made. And I was like, this right here is the perfect Zaza handbag. We're gonna now sit and all make it together to make sure that every single time you make this handbag, it's all going to be the same. Because initially I could tell who made what bag, and that
Ooh.
was an issue. That was a quality
Mm.
control issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then we graduated from, not only sharing the trade secrets of how the bags are made, how they're achieving a certain finished aesthetic,
Mm.
but also, being like, okay, leveraging the skill set of each artisan and what they do best,
Mm.
so that they are doing that part of the handbag
Mm.
manufacturing, so that now we went from a Zaza handbag being made using, the artistry of like all these combined artisans, and like us like sharing the trade secrets,
Mm.
to like a Zaza handbag where it's like all artisans touch this handbag at some
Mm.
point.
Like a
It was
production
made
line.
in community,
Mm-hmm.
and that is and that's how we were able to like grow and convince them to then move out of their ateliers and their leases, which
Oh
was crazy. That
man.
I remember when they told me that they ended their leases in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's getting
They really put their faith in me. Ay.
I just, and for me it's like every single month, no matter what happens, like I cannot let these people down.
Mm.
They are I mean, for them to, like you said, their fathers worked solo, their fathers worked solo,
Mm.
um,
Even
and
an
for them to,
additional layer, if I could.
mhm.
We're both Africans. And so we kind of know the cultural overlay there where a lot of people like to be in it for themselves. A lot of
Yeah.
people like to do for themselves. And so the fact that
Mhm.
you got to break that cultural barrier and get them together is even wow.
Yeah, and I'm not even Senegalese.
Mm.
I mean,
And you're a youngin compared to them. They're like, who's this little girl coming in here with her
no,
company?
yeah, it's so funny. Like if you go to other artisans in the artisanal village I'm talking about, they're like, yeah, this girl, this like American girl came and like gave all these artisans jobs. And so I think, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. For me, I had to learn the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Americans are also very individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
Senegalese people are actually very community centered.
Good.
And so for me, I had to like adjust to the culture,
Mm-hmm.
be ensure I was being very respectful of it. And I think that allowed us to continue building that like trustworthy relationship where it's
Mm.
like she's not Senegalese, she's not Muslim, but
Yeah.
she respects our identities, and that is incredibly important.
Wow. What you've done, I will keep saying, is amazing. Especially since you launched in February 2020. Is that right?
Yeah.
And by 2021, you had generated over $600,000 in sales. I have to wonder, how much of that would you attribute to some of the Amplify Black Voices movements that was happening around that time? And if some of it is attributed to that, has that pace sustained over time?
Absolutely.
Mm,
So Anima Iris is a huge benefactor of the push to support Black owned
mm,
businesses. Um, and we were born during a time where people wanted and were intentionally seeking
mm,
Black owned businesses. They were seeking alternatives to all of these different, items, whether it's daily items, luxury items, whatever that they
mm,
would buy. People were asking, okay, I'm about to buy something. Is there a Black owned business that's creating something of the same quality or even
mm-hmm,
better?
mm-hmm,
And that is how I think, we were able to just gain so much initial traction, but continuing that traction and growing our community and ensuring that we actually have a community that's like a solid support system. Now that was built out of like actual intentional community building,
mm,
ensuring that like our customers are having a great experience and ensuring that when we fall short, we really recover from that no matter what it takes.
mm. Let's talk about some of the strategies that have helped you get out there. I know Queen Bee, Beyonce wore one of your bags. Now, that is the stamp of approval if there was any. But other than that, I mean, I'd love to hear how your purse worked its way around Beyonce's waist. But other than that, what marketing strategies have you been using that have worked for you?
Yeah, the Beyonce moment is definitely like a top highlight moment in my
Mm,
life. I think to have had a business that at that point we were only about a year and a half in,
yeah.
and to be worn by a woman that I admire so much, it's really an incredible honor
Mm,
because for me, I'm making these bags because I want them to be worn by women like Beyonce, right? By women who aspire and are working hard to become their best selves, to become the person that they are quite honestly destined to be. And I hope that these kinds of bags add a layer of like confidence to that, that when they like pull themselves together in the morning and the last thing to add on is the handbag, it bolsters them as they go about their day and becoming who they're meant to be. And I want our handbags to be part of that. And so, the Beyonce moment is something I'll always be grateful for. I'm so thankful that KJ Moody styled Beyonce with that handbag. I love KJ. I have so much respect for him. And it was definitely a very big moment that provided a lot of validation too, because
mm.
it's like if we're Beyonce approved, then it's like, oh, they're really doing something over there.
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah. Thank you,
Um,
Beyonce. Thank you, KJ Moody. I love y'all.
well, I appreciate you even thinking Beyonce's going to hear this, but
You never know.
you never know. That is
You
true.
never
That is
know.
true. So tell me about any other marketing strategies that have worked for you.
Something I think people underestimate is the power of community and the power of when people love a product, they naturally become your greatest, like, like
Ambassadors.
word of like
Mm,
word of mouth, right?
mhm,
So but how do you build that? So ensuring that you're giving people a great product, a great like unboxing experience, ensuring that you're creating a community online that like they can feel a part of. So like
mm,
I respond to DMs all the time. I'm very open online. I respond to people's comments and things like that. I love getting suggestions and feedback. So there are definitely handbags in which I'm like, you guys, like there's just something missing. And
mm,
I'll get feedback from people, whether they like something, they don't like something, like, oh, you should add this, you shouldn't do this. And like we sometimes are actually making handbags together and people become a part of that process and they're
mm,
so invested in it. And that is like our greatest marketing strategy, actually, is literally just creating a genuine community of
mm.
irises.
I love that. Now, you earlier you mentioned that you are in stores in all these amazing places like Nordstrom and Bloom and why am I going to say Bloomberg?
Bloomingdales and
Finance,
Saks Fifth
sorry.
Avenue. No
Bloomingdale's.
worries.
How did that come about? I will preface that by saying a lot of times when new business owners want to be in retailers, they don't realize that there is a cost to you that is associated with being on those shelves. So I'm curious for you in your situation, have you found that being in those stores has added to your profitability as a company, or is it more of like a marketing expense for you?
It's both. So, I mean, truthfully, yeah, having these big orders of like $100,000 and up, that really helps. That
Mm,
absolutely really helps. It makes a big difference. And simultaneously, it exposes us to a new market. So not only do we have people who already know about the brand going into stores because they want to see it in real life, but
mm,
then we also have their customers, these retailers, like their customers now learning about us and becoming irises as well. So I actually love when I see there's certain handbags that I've only sold to certain retailers. So when someone
mm,
has that bag, it's like, oh, I know you purchased this from this retailer, and here you are DMing me back and forth, like, like now we're like really cool, now you're part of the Anima Iris community. Like I
mm,
love that so much. So I think, of course, like these companies are purchasing the bag wholesale, so you're selling it for a lot less, but there's still profitability in that. So it's just like great all around.
mm,
In terms of how I was able to get into these stores, truthfully, each of the stores reached out to me. And I think that it's crazy because I sometimes like make all these like videos and content online, and I don't really think like hundreds of people are seeing this. So when even you being like, oh yeah, I saw this online, and I'm like, I make stuff online just being like my authentic self, and I forget that like all different types of people are seeing it. I'm not really sure who is seeing it,
yeah.
but the people seeing it are people who work for these retailers, and they are approaching me literally via Instagram DM as like, we are fans of, like, I am a fan of the brand. I'm advocating for you on my team, or my team, we like pulled all the brands together. I remember, oh my gosh, I'll never forget Nordstrom. I was like, how'd you find out about us? And they were like, I think they had created like a list of brands that they wanted to bring on for this next season.
Mm,
And consistently, Anima Iris was ranked as top brand by all of the different decision makers, and my
wow.
heart just absolutely melted. Nordstrom was our first major retailer that took us on, and they are so special to us. I love the team. They've been just so supportive. And yeah, so that's how it happened. I think like you can't focus too much about trying to reach out to the buyers and things like that. I think organically, when you are creating a product that people want,
Mm.
these buyers are paying attention to that. And if they also follow you online, like that's even better because now they're fans of the product and they want to bring you on and they're excited to do so.
And that's the best situation all around, right? Both parties are excited to have you on. It's not something like they feel like they have to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you were mentioning answering DMs. Like, ma'am, who's supporting Anima Iris as a brand right now? Are you doing it all alone still?
Okay, sorry, like in terms of what? Like am I
So,
doing
in
all
terms
the
of your day to day, so do you have social media support? Do you have fulfillment support? How does all the
oh
behind the
yeah.
scenes get supported for your brand?
Yeah, when I first started in our first year, all the handbags were like stored at my home. So
Mm.
on shelves, and I was doing fulfillment, and then I like brought on other people to come into my home to do fulfillment. And then we finally graduated to a fulfillment center. We work with a wonderful fulfillment center that really has adjusted to our specific needs as a brand. So I absolutely love them. And when it comes to social media, yes, I have a core team of people who I work with, and there's someone who manages our social media. But I log in all the time, and the likelihood that you got a DM and I'm the one responding is actually very high. Um, especially if like it's a more conversational thing and not something just about like your order.
Mm.
People often DM us about their order. Sometimes I'll go and I'll screenshot it and I'm like, what's the update with this order? Like, we need to get back to this customer. But when it comes to just people having conversations or like responding about they really like something or whatever, like it actually might be me. So what I did do, because I'm so active on the Anima Iris DMs, I love talking to the irises. I actually limited and restricted people who could message me on my personal IG.
Ah, mm-hmm.
So because having all these like messages and reactions on my personal IG, because I'm active there too, was
Mm,
like really overwhelming me.
yeah.
So I limited only to people who I follow. And so, it then became like a lot less, like the messages were definitely a lot less. And it was good because these are people like I actually really want to talk to, because like,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually my friend. And then
Right.
it's like I'm spending all of my actual time where I have like social media energy on Anima Iris
The
IG. So
brand page.
yeah.
Man, so you've come so far in a very short amount of time. What's next for the Anima Iris brand? Where are you going next?
You know what? So two things that actually I really want to talk about, because I think that oftentimes there's this glorification, and I'll speak specifically about myself.
Mm,
There's a glorification of rapid progress and achievements in limited amounts of time in at such a young age, right?
mm,
And I think it can actually be very dangerous if we're not open and honest
mm,
about how difficult that experience is and what the consequences are, especially to your well-being, your mental
mm.
health. Even
Please
my
share.
friendships, like, really deteriorated.
Mm,
Because I was doing Wharton Business School and getting my MBA, and then traveling once a month, two times a month on the weekends to Dakar, as in like I was in Dakar for like, it was like a 72-hour trip. I was out of America by Thursday night, back in America by Monday morning, in class by noon on Monday. And I would do this one to two times a month. And I was so committed to Anima Iris, so committed to finishing Wharton, which is actually very hard coursework
yeah.
and workload, that my friendships, like I didn't have the capacity to keep up with my friends. I missed a lot of birthdays, I missed a lot of trips that they were doing.
Mm,
And now I'm rebuilding that, right? And so for me, I just sometimes I feel like I'm actually in a stage right now where I actually want to slow down.
mm,
Because I sat back the other day. I had this realization literally last week. And I sat back and I pulled out my Princeton degree. I literally have it right here. And I pulled out my Wharton degree and I looked at it and I was so proud of myself, because I come from a family that did not have money.
mm,
All the way back to my grandparents. I mean, my grandmother had my mom when she was literally like when she was 14. very young. My grandmother is illiterate because she had to drop out of school
Mm.
in order to raise all of these kids that she then later had, right? And so for me to be a double Ivy League graduate, obviously is so much pride. And I'm very proud of myself for what I've achieved, to have a Princeton degree, to have a Wharton degree, to have built Anima Iris so quickly within 3 years. But I also sat back and I just turned 27
Mm.
and I sat back and I was like, well, Glory, where are you running to?
Yeah.
Like,
Good question. Good question.
where am I running to?
Mm.
I I see my life as like very singular. So I don't think I'm competing with anybody. I'm not trying to be better than anybody. And I have always been running my own race. But then I sat back and I was like, where are you running to?
Mm.
It is not, it is not it's like there are is you know it's like you don't have to now hit all of these different achievements by this age. Like I sat back and I was like, well, Glory, where are you running to? And I realized like it's okay for me to slow down. I just went through a stage where last year I did so much.
Mm.
And that's why I'm like, I want to be careful about the glorification, because, if we're not honest about what it requires and the struggles I face in having these kinds of achievements, right? I don't want to lead other women, and especially other Black women, down a very dangerous path that they perhaps were not like mentally prepared for.
Mm.
And so yeah, so for me, I'm actually planning to slow down. I initially was planning to do a raise this year
Mm.
so that we could grow Anima Iris a lot faster and actually really jet set. And then I was like, no, I have other priorities. I have achieved so much academically, I have achieved a lot in my career.
Mm.
I have achieved a lot in terms of my health, love a good berries workout. I feel like I can really kill it
Mm.
in my fitness. But now I really want to prioritize my personal relationships and also my romantic relationships as well. And I think that's really important to talk about. I think we don't talk about, desiring um and aspiring towards being a wife, being a mother, and things like that, and how like that's like okay too. Like it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
have a career and like be super successful. But it's like I want to be a mother one day. I want to be a wife. I want to have a family. All of these achievements and accomplishments don't really mean much if I don't have people to share it with. If I
Mm.
don't have someone who is like, this is my life partner, like that is my yin. That's the yin to my yang. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I need to slow down and start finding that partner a lot more seriously with a lot more intention, because
Mm.
I hadn't done that before. So that's the stage I'm in now. I'm slowing down because I want to prioritize the more personal aspects of my life. And I wanted to share that because I
I
don't think we talk
appreciate it.
about that enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, let's be honest, when I'm ready to jet set again, the rocket ship will take off. Like, that's not a problem.
Right.
Like, I've,
Exactly.
I've proven I can do it, and I know I can continue to do it in the future. So, but what is still happening this year is our Pantone color launch. I'm very excited about that. We worked
Congratulations.
with Pantone to create the most beautiful color that literally is actually so hard to replicate. Our manufacturers in Italy have had a difficult time replicating it. So it's, and they finally have achieved it, but it was really hard to replicate. It's a color that I now we're gonna release a collection later this year where all the bags are going to be in that color in different patterns and shapes. We are going to release new packaging that's going to be in that color. So it's just going to be really exciting to really introduce this as our brand color and continue to solidify the Anima Iris brand. Then in the next couple of weeks, we do have our spring summer collection releasing, where we shot the most amazing campaign. I'm obsessed with it, modeled after Totally Spies. So one of my favorite
My kids love that show.
Yes, it's like Totally Spies, but with girls that, actually look like me, because growing up, a lot of these different shows that I loved did not have characters that looked like me. So I really wanted to recreate Totally Spies with and it's called Totally Irises. And the spies are like super fashionable too, so it just made sense. It just made so much sense. I cannot wait to release it. It's going to be amazing.
I can't wait to show my girls. They'll love it, especially because it's with models that look like them.
Yes, it's so good. And I worked with 3 girls who are actually sisters. So they, they look alike, but just like different enough. And they were just like absolutely amazing. I love the Ajapong sisters so much.
And they're Ghanaian.
Yes, they are Ghanaian. Very, very proudly Ghanaian. Yeah. So like, even though I'm slowing down, I think it's crazy because my slow down like doesn't even sound like I'm slowing down.
No, I think you're just maintaining a steady state of what you should be doing as opposed to rocket ship, right? Exactly.
There it is. There it is. It's like, I am not going to like take on way more than I really need to. We're going to maintain where we're at, which is great. We're going to keep growing organically. If we have spurts of growth that just kind of like happen because viral moments do happen, I'm more than happy to like welcome that. But I'm not going to like go out of my way to create more work.
No, I hear that. Now, for anyone who wants to follow everything that you have rolling out this year, where can we find you? Where can we support?
Yes, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at anima.iris. So ANIMA.IRIS. We are also on Twitter as well. Then you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at WILGLORYY at Wilglory. So those are the places where we can be found. Very active, love posting, loves the socials. Yeah.
If you enjoyed my conversation with Wilglory, I want you to know we have over 182 episodes just like this one in audio format available on shesoffscript.com or anywhere else audio podcasts are available, like Apple Podcasts. Before you head out, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this episode with someone else who could use that inspiration. With that, we'll see you right back here next Thursday for another episode. Bye.